Hello, my wonderful, beautiful friends. Guys, welcome back to r/IDontWorkHereLady, where Karens seem to think that everybody's sole purpose in life is to serve them. Guys, it's gonna be another super fantastic episode, so sit back, kick your feet up, and enjoy the stories. And hey, subscribe if you haven't already. It's been 10 years since I last did retail, though I spent a decent chunk of the prior 25 years in it. I'm also used to being mistaken for an employee. My reactions generally reflect their actions. Polite request equals a polite response, and a rude request equals being rude. Hardly anyone I've ever encountered persisted to the reporting you to supervisor part. But on Monday, I was at the Target in the next town over. So a little bit about me. Spending 25 years in retail, I tend to fold unfolded shirts out of habit when I'm browsing women's clothing. Understandably, people see this and think, oh, that's an employee. On this day, I was wearing business casual, in burgundy slacks, black top and heels, looking absolutely nothing like a Target employee. I'm standing in the feminine hygiene aisle, marveling at all the ways pads and tampons have just exploded in variety over the past few decades, and contemplating my various options in a humorous series of texts to my husband. I'm oblivious to the world around me, as usual. Suddenly, my upper arm is grabbed, hard, and this lady, about my age, 51, says, "I've been trying to get your attention for a while now. Put down your phone and help me. I can't find the cat food." Now, grabbing me is not allowed, so my response begins with yanking my arm away and saying, "Touch me again and your ass will be on the ground. Got it? I don't work here. Go find someone else." The woman continues to demand my help, and I insist that I don't work here. She insists that I do, and finally, I just turn and walk away, and she shouts after me, saying, "I'd expect this from some kid, but you're old enough to know better. I am going to find your manager." And at this point, something snaps in my mind. I then whirl around. I stalk back over to her, wag my finger in her face, and demand that she go into the back and get me a large-sized tub of KY jelly. I tell her there's none out here, and I need it right now. Now, I find bringing sex into a conversation makes people pay attention to what I'm saying. She then looks shocked and appalled as I say, "And where are the Magnum condoms? Go find me those and the KY jelly, and don't you come back until you do." Now, the look on this woman's face is priceless. She tells me not to play games with her, as she knows I work here, and she's gonna get me fired. And I just grin. I then say something I've always wanted to. I said, "I know the owner, and I'm gonna get you and your manager fired if you don't find me my KY jelly and those Magnum condoms." She then shouts that she doesn't work here, and I look her in the eye and state calmly, "Neither do I." And then I stare, until she looks away and starts heading down the aisle. Now, I'm not sure what the pharmacy techs thought about two middle-aged ladies standing in Target shouting about KY jelly and threatening to have one another fired from a place that neither of them worked, but I hope they found it as entertaining as I did. Guys, I absolutely love this story. One of the more unique stories on the sub. Now, I can only imagine what the two employees were thinking while watching two 50-year-old women screaming about KY jelly and Magnum condoms. I would have just burst out laughing. Great sense of humor, OP. Okay, so I found this sub a few days ago, and I thought I'd share a story from a couple of years ago. So I used to work at the deli of a Publix down in Florida, which is a fairly large grocery chain in the southeast. The Publix I worked in was fairly close to the Villages, which is the largest retirement community in the country. Now, probably something in the range of 2/3 of all customers in the store were all retirees. There was a larger than average number of rude customers, but there were a few regulars who were really foul-tempered. Of the year or so I worked there, this 70-year-old woman came in every Sunday, and she ordered the same thing, a toasted chicken tender sub with shredded pepper jack cheese. Now, she was also the pushiest Karen that I've ever had the displeasure of meeting. If there was a line and she was forced to wait, she'd start yelling that we needed to hurry up because, quote, "some of us have places to be." She would also loudly complain that the service here is getting worse every year, and she would lean over the counter and snap her fingers at anybody passing by saying, "Excuse me, I've been waiting for service, come here." She also had the habit of whistling at people, like they were a dog, to get their attention. Now everybody hated this woman. She never said a thank you, she never said please, and she always found something wrong with everything you did. She once waited until I finished making a sandwich for her, and then she said, "I didn't see you wash your hands. I don't want that sub. Go wash your dirty hands and make me a new one." So yeah, that's the type of person she is. Unfortunately, Publix has a policy of make it right, so we could never tell her to go suck an egg like we so desperately wanted to. Eventually, I got fed up with every other guest being a grouchy person that was more interested in starting a fight than they were getting deli meats, so I quit. 3 days after I quit, I came back into Publix and stopped by the deli to give one of my coworkers his phone charger. As I turned to leave, that Karen steps out of line and says, "Hey, you work here, don't you? Come take my order, now." I say to her, "I'm sorry, I quit a few days ago, I don't work here anymore." She says, "Stop lying. I just saw you behind the counter talking to someone. If you have time to talk, you have time to help customers." I then say to her, "Sorry, I can't help you, they'll be with you soon." I then tried to walk away, but she steps in front of me, grabs my arm, and then points her finger in my face and starts screaming at me that I was the worst employee that she's ever seen, that I always messed up her order, that I should be lucky to have a job, and that I need to do as she said, or she would tell my manager. I then yanked my arm out of her grip, told her to go F herself, and then walked over to customer service and told the manager that there's someone harassing other customers in the deli line. He said he'd heard someone shrieking about something and he was about to go see what it was. So he and I walked back over to the deli and I pointed her out to the manager. After a short conversation in which he asked her if anything was wrong, she starts complaining to him that I was rude and unwilling to help. He told her that I no longer worked here and that she was disturbing other customers and she had to leave and she won't be welcome back. The lady then left, complaining that Publix sucked anyways and that she would be calling corporate to file a complaint. And I got a few texts from my old coworkers thanking me for getting rid of her. Glad to help, and see you never, you old hag. I wish I could have seen her face when OP gave her a nice warm glass of go F yourself. Like, that old woman totally deserved it. She literally had no respect for any employee. And come on, the ultimate disrespect is snapping your fingers at an employee and whistling at them like they're some sort of animal. This event happened almost 3 years ago. I was lucky enough to go to the soft opening of Shanghai Disneyland, a couple of weeks before the official opening with my church's youth group. The day was pretty fun, as there weren't a lot of people and we got to ride most of the big rides with only 20 to 30 minute waiting times. Anyways, at the tail end of the visit, everyone's pretty tired from walking around all day, so we decide to go to the only open gift shop in the park, located at the Tomorrowland area. This is a soft opening meant for friends and family of those who worked on the park, to allow them to experience the rides and stuff. The gift shop is stocked with a sample of each item available at all of the future gift stores, with a corresponding piece of paper with the name of the item in Chinese, its price, and a number that correlates with the item. There's a lot of signs posted all around the store and at the front door, notifying the customers in both English and Chinese that you're supposed to write down the item number, the amount, and size with a Mickey Mouse branded pen and paper that they pass out when you enter the store, and then hand it to one of the store attendants to get your stuff. So just for some context, I attended a private international school in Shanghai, where I was taught English, so I'm better at English than most Chinese kids. I should also mention that me and my entire group were wearing this white Mickey printed t-shirt from Uniqlo. It's Disney branded, but looks nothing like the uniform. And all the employees had these mouse ears, or sailor hat thing on, and they had name tags and lanyards with pins on them. Anyways, I spot a girl that I recognize from playing sports with other schools. She's there with who I think is her mom, and they're struggling at the plushie bin. I ended up helping them find the things that they need. Halfway through, I feel a presence approach me. Now, I don't pay it much mind, as I think it's one of the other family members, and I finish up writing down the number for the Kylo Ren Mickey that they wanted. They leave seemingly happy with their choices, and I look through the plushie pile some more to see if there's anything I want. After finishing, I turn around to look for my friends, and I'm confronted with the most forced smile that I've ever witnessed. The woman who I thought was their family member was standing about 10 centimeters away from me, and her face was about 5 centimeters away from my neck. I felt her warm, caustic breath, huffing and puffing on my collarbone. Now, I did think it was kind of weird, but my tired brain at this point didn't think anything of it, so I scuttle away to find my friends. I then hear her yell, "Hey!" And then I felt it. Her oily, grubby, marshmallow fingers with her crusty acrylics grabbed my arm. I slowly turn around and I'm immediately met with a shirt shoved in my face. She then shouts at me, "We need larges for these shirts. Your stock is terrible. There's nothing here." Now, all I could mutter before she talked to me again was, "Excuse me?" She says, "Just look in the back. I know you have more stock back there." I then look around and her 2 kids are behind her, hands full of sample toys. She's holding one shirt right next to my face and holding 2 more on her arm. I then turn around, Chinese people aren't very confrontational, but they love to watch. There's about 10 or 12 people staring at us. I then say to her, "You're not supposed to take those. Read the signs." She says, "Excuse me?" I tell her, "Those are samples. You're not supposed to touch them." She says, "Don't you tell me what I can and can't buy. Who's in charge here? Get me your supervisor. You are clearly untrained." I then say to her, "I don't work here. I was just helping a friend." To which she says, "That's unfair treatment. Just because they're your friend." At this point, one of the members from my youth group yelled from across the store in Chinese to see if I was done. I decided it's not worth it, and I start heading towards the group. I then hear her screech, "Hey, stop right there." Immediately followed with, "You are supposed to serve me, not them. You speak English. You are supposed to help the American customer, not one of your Chinese, and I can't find the right sizes." Now, there were two big things that pissed me off about this statement. Firstly, she said Chinese, as if I was her PTA mom friend that she was complaining to about some Asian kid getting the valedictorian position over her own precious baby. Secondly, she's completely ignored what I said, and she's contradicted herself as she's gone from telling me that I'm untrained because I don't work here, to now me being trained specifically to help Americans. I don't even turn around. I just yell, "I'm not an effing employee. You are being a bitch." I then turn around, look her in the eyes and say, "And you are not my problem." I hear a comically loud gasp coming from her, and I can see her form an individual stampede and approach me. Now I do kind of get scared, so I put my hands up and brace myself, and I end up awkwardly catching the shirt and the hanger that she was trying to hit me with. I push her hand away and just leg it towards the door. At this point, I was in a state of fear and confusion as no one outside my own mother has attempted to hit me like that. I catch my friends at the keychain area close to the counter and try to blend in with the crowd and begin to tell them that that crazy lady was trying to murder me. After my unsuccessful attempt to get everyone to leave as they just handed in their papers, I hear a loud screech of someone speaking in a way as if they were condescendingly speaking to someone that they perceive to be mentally slow. I hear the woman say, "Your worker attacked me." And this all came with its own flailing of hands and trying to mime out the phrase. I can see the poor manager on the verge of breaking down after dealing with waves of demanding Disney fans and being yelled at in a language that he barely understands. At this point, I stride towards the woman and kindly say to the manager in Chinese, "She's crazy. She tried to hit me because she thought I worked here and didn't want to help her." All the while, she freaks out and keeps screaming at him, "That's him! That's him!" Now, obviously, the manager tunes her out because he actually understands what I'm saying, and he tells me that he would call security, but there's none available at the moment. Soon enough, the woman gets agitated and she grabs the manager and starts shaking him, screaming at him to fire me, and she's shaking him hard. The manager shoves the woman off, puts a finger in her face, and says in broken English, "No touch." Now, the Karen shook. She realizes what's happening, and she starts stumbling a couple of steps back, and she flops on the floor. She just starts flailing around and screaming. At this point, the entire store's customers, including the girl I was helping and my church group, and most of the employees have gathered around and started watching the woman act like a toddler. She literally pauses to see if people are watching, and then she goes straight back to screaming and crying. A bunch of Chinese people start pulling out their phones and filming this crazy lady making a mess at Disney. After she realizes that no one gives a care in the world about her childish behavior and are just watching, she begins to shift back into anger. She says, "Never in my life has anyone disrespected me like this. 6 years in China. 6. And you are the worst." She says that as she points her sausage fingers at me. And I'm thinking, 6 years? 6, and this woman hasn't even attempted to learn a lick of Chinese? At this point, all eyes are on me, and this becomes one of those moments that I would regret and replay every night for the next 35 years if I don't speak my mind. I then muster a, F you. That was it. That was all I could come up with, but thank goodness she kept talking. She says, No, F you. You are a rude brat, and I'll make sure my husband gets you fired. You've ruined my boy's day. I tell her, well, go ahead. I don't work here. I don't need to do anything for you. At this point, she's still on the floor, so I just turn around, walk towards my youth group, and just said, "Let's go," in Chinese. We ended up going to the Cheesecake Factory, and I got to tell the story to the rest of my youth group. And my leader chewed me out for not being a good Samaritan, but also agreed that she was kind of a bitch. Guys, the woman sounded like an absolute nightmare. I wonder what the heck her kids thought of mommy, just sprawling on the ground throwing a full-blown tantrum. Like, way to set an example for your kids, Karen. And also, 6 years is a pretty long time to live somewhere and not at least know how to communicate with the locals. But then again, she sounds like the type of person who demands everybody speak English to her, right? So at the time, my 7-year-old daughter loved to help with every little household task. She loved drying the dishes, watering the plants, sorting the mail, even answering the phone. So whenever I have to take her to work with me or on a boring errand, I'd try to find some small job for her to do to keep her occupied. For example, if we were at the grocery store, I might suggest she help the clerks by turning all the cans so their labels faced right side out. And what was really helpful is that it allowed me to finish up the tasks much more quickly. So when I picked her up from school one day, I had to run to a home goods department store and grab a few things for an urgent repair. She was getting restless, so I parked her in the plumbing department and said that she could be helpful to the store by going through their big row of pipes and returning the mismatched ones to their proper holders. Her dad's a plumber, so she knew all about which ones went where. So off I went to finish up a few paces over. I was occupied for all of 10 minutes and periodically peeked over to see how she was getting by. She had moved on from the pipes after a bit, but was checking out the other products and seemed entertained enough. So I take a couple more minutes and all of a sudden I hear, "Associate to aisle 14 please, we need an associate to aisle 14. In a young, chipper, 7-year-old voice. I dash back to the plumbing section and she's nowhere to be found. And then I hear, "It seems we have a birthday in the store. Happy birthday to shopper Nicholas Manikowski." Now, that was the most enthusiastic announcement that this big box store probably ever heard. It brought on some clapping and whooping from shoppers that made it hard to discern the location of the box. But I could barely pick out where the PA was coming from. By the time I got there, my daughter was engrossed in conversation with a young couple. Not young like 7, young like 25. She was gesturing animatedly at a set of sink fixtures. I thought maybe she was asking them for directions to where I might be shopping or something, but instead I hear, "Oh, yeah, you'll want the chrome extender. You'll never sweat the dishes again." And it's such a centerpiece in the room. The store also offers extenders in copper, and I then tapped her on the shoulder, unsure of why she's chatting up these shoppers about faucet add-ons, figuring she'd be relieved to see I found her. Instead, she whips around and goes, "Excuse me, Mom, I'm with a customer." And then she turns right back to her discussion. So I throw my hands up and just hover in the background, waiting to see how this all shakes out. Because if I already know anything about my daughter, it's that when she decides to do something, it's happening one way or another. So she continues to talk to these two morons, unfazed by her age about the sink, answering all their questions and making suggestions. Now, at first, I was flabbergasted by the fluidity in which she was generating these seemingly accurate responses, and wondering if she was just sitting up at night watching the Home Improvement channel or something. But I soon recognized the lines. She was parroting her father's sales pitches from work. He advises people on fixtures all the time, and his firm got a kickback if he could convince clients to buy from their supplier. The more add-ons, the better, so she was laying it on thick. The couple left agreeing to purchase a whole new sink. When my daughter wrapped up with her customers, I asked her what happened. She explained that while she was sorting the pipes, people kept coming up and asking her for advice. She said, "I guess I look smart." Now, it took me a minute to figure out what happened, because plenty of people who are actually of age to work in this place have been kneeling down rifling through pipes, and they aren't mistaken for workers. At least, I've certainly never been. It wasn't until checkout that it hit me. On this particular day, her class had gone on a field trip or put on a presentation or something, in which all of the children had to wear official name tags. She was especially proud of hers, and she kept it right in the middle of her shirt. It was indistinguishable from the ones employees had on their vest, just the standard red and white, "Hello, my name is blank." People were on such autopilot that they didn't process her age, or they were so impressed by her unprecedented knowledge of plumbing goods that they set it aside. She confirmed that she knew exactly what to recommend from going to work with Dad. I asked how she ended up manning the PA system, and she explained another employee who'd seen her helping the store customers realized how helpful she could be, and asked her to make an announcement. I then asked her how she knew how to operate a PA system, and to my chagrin, she explained her older sister jumped on the PA system whenever she and her friends came by the department store. She also added that someone she'd helped with a fixture decision had mentioned how he was remodeling his house for a 50th birthday present to himself, and she always loves when the bowling alley announces birthdays. So she wanted to try to get the practice started everywhere, with the capacity for announcements. And wasn't that a great idea? She most certainly did not work there, but she was just as helpful as those who did, and I guarantee she had twice as much fun. What a wonderfully wholesome story, guys, and what a way to wrap up another n/I-Don't-Work-Here-Lady. Guys, I hope you enjoyed the stories today. If you did, hit that thumbs up. If you missed yesterday's episode on the channel, an entitled Karen decides to steal her daughter's life savings because, hey, she's mom. Check it out if you haven't, and myself and Stevie Boy will see you guys in the next one. We love you.